Hello, I'm Lindsay Godwin, and I'm thrilled to be supporting Vermont's FEA Summit. I'm a professor of management at Champlain College, which is hosting the summit, and I've been involved using appreciative inquiry for the past decade. Since my days as a doctoral student at Case Western Reserve University, where I studied with the founding thought leaders of appreciative inquiry, otherwise known as AI. I've had the good fortune of working with organizations literally around the world, from the United Nations to schools in Houston to nonprofit groups in Nepal to my own new neighbors here in Vermont, like Green Mountain Coffee Roasters, the Institute for Sustainable Communities, and ECHO, using AI to help them create positive organizational change. So you're probably asking yourself, what is AI? AI is an approach to organizational change that provides an alternative to the traditional problem-solving model. The traditional model of change is very deficit-based. It asks organizations to focus on what is wrong and to try to fix it, whereas AI begins with a different question. It asks organizations to begin by looking at what is right and trying to accentuate it. AI reminds us to pay attention to two very important realities in organizations. First, that every question we ask in an organization is an intervention. The questions we ask seed what we find. And second, what we focus on in organizations grows or appreciates, as in to grow in value. Take the example of low morale in organizations. Many organizations think the best way to deal with an issue of low morale is to do a survey about why there is low morale, asking people all the reasons why they don't like working there. The biggest result from such a project, however, is typically an increase in low morale. Ironic, but true. Why? Because our questions have focused people on what they don't like about working there. We focus on low morale, and that is what appreciates or grows in the organization. So unfortunately, all the surveys in the world about low morale will only tell us what we don't want, not actually what we do want, which is to create an engaging, thriving workplace. So rather than going through the back door by asking what we don't want, AI simply invites organizations to go through the front door and focus on what they do want to create and grow in their organizations. As Einstein once said, no problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. We must learn to see the world anew. And that's what AI invites us to do. Through AI, we see a real shift in creating what we call change at the scale of the whole. When we focus on problems, people get defensive and want to assign blame to others. When we focus on possibilities and what we want in the future, however, people become engaged and excited to help make their vision a reality. AI typically uses what has been referred to as the 4D framework. The first D is for discovery and involves discovering the best of what is in the organization, trying to understand what circumstances help create those conditions for success so that we can replicate them. Then it goes further to ask, what would this look like if this exception was actually the norm? What would the organization look like when it's most alive, most successful, and how can we begin to make that our reality? This moves us to the second D for dream, asking the organization to really imagine what success would look like in the future. And then from there we move to the third D for design. And here we look at the vision for the future and compare it with the reality of today and begin to design the small and large steps needed to happen to move the organization forward. From there we finally move into the last D, which is delivery. And this is where we put those action plans in place and actually do the work to move us forward toward our ideal image of the future. So that's just a little bit of the philosophy and framework of AI at a very high level. So you might be asking now, what is an AI summit? A summit is a strategic planning meeting that brings together multiple stakeholders using the AI framework. A summit is a task-focused meeting, not simply an educational event or a conference. We are coming together to accomplish the task of energizing the Vermont FEA, partnering with each other and the community to build collaborative and sustaining relationships. Specifically, summit participants will go through the 4D process by engaging in facilitated dialogue and discussions to first identify and lift up existing best practices for building effective government-community partnerships from our region and beyond. Then participants will collectively envision future initiatives for the Vermont FEA. They will outline the new partnerships and projects necessary to inspire innovative action and cultivate individual and community-wide change in our region and beyond. Working with diverse stakeholder groups, where all voices across the community are represented, Summit participants will create working groups that actually begin to design and prototype some new projects envisioned to begin transforming their dreams into realities. Such a summit might appear bold at first, but is actually based on a very simple notion. That is, when it comes to innovation and integration, there's nothing that brings out the best of human systems faster, more consistently, and more effectively than the power of the whole. True innovation happens when different stakeholder groups come together, build a collaborative and appreciative interchange, and explore the intersection of their different points of strength. By inviting the direct participation of all stakeholders in the system, rather than just a few representative decision makers, these processes create successful and sustainable transformation at scales never before imagined. Just as Thomas Edison once said, if we did all the things we were capable of, we would literally astound ourselves. I look forward to seeing you all in November and seeing all of the astounding things I know we'll come up with there.